The revelation surrounding Mikie Sherrill's military records raises critical questions that demand attention. In a surprising turn of events, a division of the National Archives has disclosed a largely unredacted version of Democratic Representative Mikie Sherrill's military documentation to Nicholas DiGregorio, a supporter of her Republican contender Jack Ciattarelli, in the New Jersey gubernatorial race. This significant breach may not only contradict the Privacy Act of 1974, but also flout the regulations set forth by the Freedom of Information Act. Notably, the documents, which CBS News has also acquired, suggest that the National Personnel Records Center, NPRC, tasked with safeguarding personnel records for U.S. military members and government employees, has mistakenly released Sherrill's entire military file with minimal redactions. CBS News undertook an investigation to determine if Sherrill had any links to the 1994 Naval Academy cheating scandal, where over 100 midshipmen were implicated in an academic dishonesty incident. Importantly, Sherrill has maintained her innocence, stating that her sole misstep was failing to report her classmates, and she was never formally accused of cheating. Among the sensitive information in her records were Sherrill's Social Security number, prominently displayed across multiple pages, along with personal addresses for herself and her family members, her life insurance details, performance assessments, and a non-disclosure agreement related to classified information. The only aspects that were redacted were the Social Security numbers belonging to her former superiors. The released records also appear to correlate with those that Sherrill had previously requested from the NPRC back in August 2017, as indicated by a verification signature page present within the documents. In a response to CBS News, the NPRC acknowledged that a technician failed to adhere to established protocols for record releases, clarifying that only sections compliant with FOIA guidelines should have been disclosed. Grace McCaffrey, representing the National Archives and Records Administration, pointed out in her correspondence that the technician was not authorized to share the entirety of the record. The archives became cognizant of this lapse on Tuesday and promptly initiated a review of its internal controls, examining the reasons behind this procedural oversight. Additionally, the NPRC reached out to its Inspector General regarding the breach and extended an apology to Sherrill's congressional office. Political campaigns, opposition research teams, and media organizations frequently seek military records of individuals seeking elected office to ensure due diligence and to inform the electorate more comprehensively. It's important to note that military veterans and the families of deceased veterans can request full access to their service records, whereas general public requests can only yield portions of these files after a 62-year confidentiality period, coupled with certain details being redacted for privacy or national security reasons. As New Jersey's gubernatorial race intensifies, with recent polling indicating a dead heat between Sherrill and Ciattarelli, Republican allies of Ciattarelli are diving into Sherrill's military past, searching for connections to the aforementioned Naval Academy cheating scandal. This scandal involved more than 100 midshipmen implicated in academic fraud concerning a challenging electrical engineering exam mandatory for all third-year students who are not engineering majors. Sherrill boasts an impeccable military record, having won a Navy Achievement Medal in 1991 for heroically saving a classmate's life during her time as a midshipman. Crucially, neither the documents disclosed by the National Archives to DiGregorio nor those released to CBS News provide any evidence of her involvement in the 1994 Naval Academy scandal. However, a document acquired by CBS News absent from the archives release indicates that Sherrill's name was excluded from the commencement program for the Naval Academy graduation on May 25, 1994. When queried about the omission of her name from this significant event, Sherrill stated, "While at the Naval Academy, I chose not to disclose certain classmates' actions, and as a result, I did not participate in the graduation ceremony. Nevertheless, I completed my education and was commissioned as a U.S. Navy officer, serving with exemplary distinction for nearly a decade." she expressed her dismay over the situation, emphasizing, "The actions being taken by Jack Ciattarelli and the Trump administration to improperly exploit my military records for political purposes are a grave injustice to all who have served our nation. No veterans' records should be vulnerable to such exploitation." Although Ciattarelli has not commented directly on the release of her military records, he did highlight on social media the fact that she did not participate in the graduation ceremony. He labeled the situation stunning and deeply disturbing, suggesting that it tied her to the scandal, to which Sherrill firmly replied that her absence was due to her refusal to report her peers. The White House has referred the matter to the National Archives for further inquiry. DeGregorio, a Marine veteran who had previously run unsuccessfully for Congress as a Republican in New Jersey, expressed to CBS News, "In this politically charged climate, some might attempt to twist my actions into something sinister, implying that the Trump administration leaked these records to hurt her campaign, which is unequivocally untrue." DeGregorio elaborated that Chris Russell, a Republican consultant, had prompted him to investigate Sherrill's background. "Russell asked me if I could assist him, and my initial step was to explore what could be gleaned through a FOIA request, which was new territory for me," DeGregorio explained. In May, DeGregorio made a FOIA request to the NPRC for Sherrill's records. A day later, he received a notification that they found no records under the name Sherrill, due to a clerical error that omitted one R in her last name. On June 12, after making a phone inquiry to the NPRC, he was connected to a helpful representative who facilitated access to Sherrill's Social Security number. Subsequently, on June 30th, her complete records were sent to DeGregorio, who stated he was taken aback by the sensitive data he received, passing it along to Ciattarelli's campaign. "I was shocked to find Sherrill's Social Security number in the files," DeGregorio reiterated. "Here's a governmental agency handing over this information to an average person with no familial connection. It was astonishing, to say the least." An examination of DeGregorio's request by CBS News confirmed that it acknowledged necessary redactions to protect personal and medical data. The archives advised CBS News that they do not believe the NPRC staff had any malicious intent in this incident. DeGregorio stated, however, that Ciattarelli's campaign did not enlist or motivate him to obtain these records in any way. In a letter of apology to DeGregorio, Scott Levins, the NPRC director, acknowledged the profound error made by the archives and requested that he refrain from further distribution of the mistakenly sent records. Sherrill's campaign was informed about the security breach on Monday, and the NPRC provided an apology letter, indicating their coordination with the Navy, the rightful steward of Sherrill's records. The center also offered identity theft protection and free credit monitoring services to Sherrill as a precaution. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries stated that he endorses a criminal investigation into the unauthorized and illegal release of Sherrill's records. "It is completely unacceptable that Donald Trump and his associates continue to breach the law in such blatant ways," Jeffries asserted. "They must be held accountable for their actions." It's worth noting that 2 years prior, unauthorized disclosures from the Air Force Personnel Center also affected Republican Representatives Don Bacon of Nebraska and Zach Nunn of Iowa, among others, when their records were improperly released to a group aligned with the Democratic Party. Politico reported that this disclosure stemmed from a request by Abraham Payton of the Due Diligence Group, who claimed he sought the records for purposes of benefits, employment, and other. Records indicated that this group had been compensated over $110,000 by the House Democratic campaign, raising further concerns about such practices. The Air Force subsequently notified Bacon of the breach, indicating that Payton had improperly requested the records, prompting an inquiry from a House Judiciary Subcommittee in March 2023, though details on the conclusion of this investigation have remained vague. This kind of unauthorized release has ignited indignation among Republicans in Congress. Some House Republicans attempted to push through legislation to prevent the Department of Defense from publicly disclosing service members' military records without explicit consent from the individual or their immediate relatives if they are deceased. However, these attempts failed to materialize. Journalists and military personnel investigating cases of stolen valor expressed concerns that such legislation would inadvertently obstruct independent evaluations of individuals who misrepresent their military service or violate the Stolen Valor Act of 2013, which penalizes false claims regarding military distinctions for personal gain. Sherrill's political opponents are also scrutinizing whether she has ever exaggerated her rank post-Navy service. Congressional records reveal that she was recommended for promotion to lieutenant commander in September 2003. However, information obtained from CBS News through proper channels indicated that Sherrill concluded her time in the Navy at the rank of lieutenant in December of that same year, before the promotion took effect. Investigations by CBS News revealed that in 2020, an email campaign sent on her behalf mistakenly identified her as a lieutenant commander. Moreover, President Biden himself referenced her with that rank during his comments in October 2021 while promoting his infrastructure initiatives. Despite these instances of rank misrepresentation by others, CBS News found no evidence that Sherrill herself has falsely claimed a higher rank. Anthony Anderson, the prominent stolen valor investigator and Army veteran, shared with CBS News that the rank discrepancy does not meet the threshold for stolen valor, either under the terms of the Stolen Valor Act of 2013 or within military vernacular. Ultimately, this incident raises serious discussions about privacy, transparency, and the ethical dimensions of political campaigns. What do you think about the unauthorized release of military records? Should there be stricter regulations to protect such sensitive information? Share your thoughts in the comments below.